tell you a little bit about myself and my qualifications. Um, Many people from the Elgin area are familiar with Danny's Pizza. Danny's Pizza is the family business. My father was Danny. My mom, Sandy, still works in the restaurant from time to time. My father, despite his success in business, and Danny's Pizza has won the best pizza contest in Elgin every year. There's been a contest since the mid '80s.
Right.
But despite all of his success in business, my father never graduated from high school. My father couldn't read, and despite that, or perhaps because of it, he really transmitted to me a real love for learning and the importance of an education. And so I studied really hard in school. And I excelled in school. I got essentially straight A's in high school, college at Augustana, and law school at the University of Illinois, graduating magna cum laude from both Augustana and University of Illinois College of Law, becoming quite the nerd in the process. I've been an attorney for 22 years. I've been a trial attorney for virtually that entire time. I've handled essentially every kind of case that a trial lawyer can handle in every courtroom in Northern Illinois, both state and federal, and virtually every administrative tribunal that exists today. And I've been an attorney for individuals. I've been an attorney for the world's largest companies. I was a senior vice president for a global bank. I've practiced with Skadden Arps, one of the world's largest, most prestigious and powerful law firms, and I've practiced with a small litigation firm, and I've practiced as a sole practitioner owning my own firm here in Elgin. And I'm running for judge of the 16th Circuit Court, which is Kane, Kendall, and DeKalb counties. And there are 3 different ways you can become elected to judge. One of them is to run countywide. They call that resident judge. And there's a brand new resident judge for Kane County seat that's just been created. That's the seat that I'm running for. So anyone who lives in Kane County can vote for me.
Okay.
And I generally explain that there are 2 Democratic candidates in the primary. The primary is going to be on February 2nd, 2010. And assuming that I do well in the primary and that I'm the Democratic nominee, there are 5 Republicans running, and then there'll be an election in November to decide who actually wins the seat.
Okay. Now, where are you and your family from?
Well, we're from, my immediate family is from Northern Illinois. I was born in Evanston. If you talk, broader than that in terms of our heritage, we're, like most Americans, ultimately immigrants. My father's mother was Polish, his father was Irish. My mother's father was Greek, and her mother was Irish. And so that makes me half Irish, quarter Polish, quarter Greek, and somehow a little seasoning of American Cherokee, Indian, and French. I'm not quite sure where that pops up.
What's your inspiration, or who inspired you to become a lawyer?
Well, movies, interestingly enough. I decided to be a lawyer when I was 9. And I was influenced by Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. I wanted to be Atticus Finch in the worst way. And I was also, maybe a little more humorously, influenced by the lawyer that saved Santa Claus in Miracle on 34th Street, the original version. So I had an image of lawyers as very powerful people who did good things. And someone, when I was 8 or 9, told me, as I convinced her not to punish her daughter for something she had in fact done, she said, "You'd make a good lawyer." And I thought that sounded like a great idea, and decided on the spot, on that lady's back porch, that's what I would be, and I never really changed my mind. In fact, I wasn't seriously interested in running for office until some leaders from the local Democratic Party took me to lunch and asked me to run for judge. And even after being asked, I didn't take it seriously for at least a month. But then I started to talk to some people whose opinions I respected, and they said, it wasn't a crazy idea. They said it was a great idea. They said I should do it, and then they offered me their support, which that got me to thinking about it. And eventually I sat down in an organized series of meetings with about 60 or 70 local opinion leaders, and every single one told me they thought I should run, and before you knew it, I was running for judge.
Who are some of those individuals, if you'd like to disclose that information?
Your mother was one of them. And nearly every person I know or Rich knows, who is either in elected office or who's run for elected office, I met with. I met with opinion leaders in city government. I met with opinion leaders from the local Hispanic community. I met with local Republicans that I know well. In fact, these meetings eventually became the framework for the committee that is Citizens for Dalton now. These same folks that I met with eventually became committee members, and today 25% of my committee are local Republicans.
Right.
And I'm really proud of that, because I don't think being a judge is a partisan job. I think it's really important for a judge to be nonpartisan.
What will you be able to provide on the bench to the citizens of Kane County?
Well, I think that the most important thing a judge brings to the bench, besides obviously a deep knowledge of the law and experience in courtroom procedure, is a basic sense of fairness, an ability to keep that open mind until you've heard both sides, and to disregard your prejudices, and put anything that's not relevant to the legal question, to the facts of the case are what matters. The evidence that's before you, that's what matters. You apply that evidence to the law, and you make the fairest decision you possibly can. And the skills that I've acquired in my life experience, in my the fine education my parents afforded me, and the career I've had in the 23 years I've been practicing law, I think have prepared me well for the challenges that I would face on the bench if I was fortunate enough to earn the votes of the citizens of Kane County and be elected judge.
Okay. Good.
There's two issues I'm running on. One is I've come up with a good way that we can save the taxpayers of the 16th Circuit some money. Today, as it stands, if you have a routine traffic ticket, you're going 10 miles over and you get a ticket, you have to either pay the fine by mail way in advance, so it gets processed before your court date,
right,
or you have to take the day off of work and burn a half a tank of gas and pollute the environment, and drive down to the courthouse and wait for your turn, and then you can pay your fine, or you can ask the court for a trial date or ask for court supervision and have your ticket processed. Well, that's a pretty inefficient way to handle a very routine, almost clerical matter. And what I would like to see the court system do is do most of those routine transactions online. There's no reason why we need to pay as taxpayers for a judge and a clerk and a bailiff and a big courtroom in order for you to come in and say, Judge, I'd like a trial date. And the judge to look at the calendar and say the next date's November 22nd. We'll see you then. You can do that online in real time, right up until the night before, and the court can process that for essentially no money once the system's up and running, and it can assign you that trial date, or you can seek court supervision, or you could pay the fine, and there'd be very little chance of mistakes because there'd be very little human interaction, and there's just no reason why we shouldn't have a state-of-the-art system like that, which Cook County enjoys, and save the taxpayers from the relatively expensive way we process those matters today. The second issue that I'm running on is I've pledged, and I've challenged my opponents to pledge, to refuse to accept campaign donations from attorneys and from organizations that represent attorneys, because I view that as a conflict of interest. The way that most judicial campaigns raise their funds today is the lawyers gather together in fancy cocktail parties and they write $1,000 checks, and then a few months later, assuming that candidate's elected judge, those same lawyers appear before that same judge and argue their clients' cases, and everybody pretends like that's not a conflict of interest. But there's studies that show that 50% of judges, when you ask them privately, they'll tell you that they're affected, their decisions are affected by campaign donations. And so there is a conflict of interest, a very real conflict of interest. It's not imaginary, it's not an appearance of impropriety, it's the real deal. It's the impact of those donations is corrosive, and it just isn't right, and I'm not going to do it. And so far, my primary opponent has not accepted that challenge. Most of my career was civil litigation, nice clean fights over money, including fights over vast sums of money. I've handled complex litigation, antitrust litigation, class actions. I've been the lead lawyer on cases that involved 70, $80 million at a time. I've represented people who are victims of discrimination. I've successfully litigated claims of age discrimination, for example. I have deep roots in this community. I have a record of service. Until very recently, I was the chairman and one of the founders of SOAP, Speak Out Against Prejudice. And as you know, SOAP was formed primarily in response to the anti-immigrant, anti-Hispanic rhetoric of a group called AFLA, which I and many others thought was racist. And SOAP spoke out against that, fought against that, raised consciousness about that debate about immigration. Regardless of what you feel about immigration, whether you're in favor of comprehensive immigration reform or not, I think we can all agree that we could have that debate in a civil, respectful way, free of racism. And that's what SOAP stood for and still stands for. And I'm really proud of the work that we did. And in fact, this past January, we won the Martin Luther King Jr. Humanitarian Award for that public advocacy for the work that we did. And I'm truly proud of that accomplishment. I believe in a lot of things. I believe in diversity. I believe in transparency. I believe in the possibility of grace and redemption. I believe that the role of a judge is to be nonpartisan, to keep an open mind until all the evidence is in, to listen to both sides, and to treat every person that appears before the court with dignity and respect. And if I'm fortunate enough to earn the support and the votes of the people of King County, that's the kind of judge that I'll be. Running for judge is one of the hardest things, one of the scariest things I've ever done.
Okay.
Y yo necesito su ayuda, which is, I need your help.
Por favor.